In life, we often chase the wrong things. We run after wealth, power, and fame, thinking they will make us happy. But true wisdom comes when we finally understand what really matters. Today's story is about a powerful king who learned life's greatest lesson, but only when it was almost too late. Let's discover what he learned, so we don't have to wait a lifetime to understand it ourselves. In a magnificent kingdom, there ruled a king named Vikram. He was the richest and most powerful ruler in all the lands. His palace had 1,000 rooms. His treasury overflowed with gold. His army was the strongest. People bowed when he passed. King Vikram had everything anyone could want, but despite all his wealth and power, something felt empty inside. He didn't know what it was, but he could feel it. A hollow space that gold couldn't fill. One day, a mysterious old sage arrived at the palace gates. The guards tried to send him away, but the sage insisted, "Tell your king that I have come to give him the greatest treasure in the world." When King Vikram heard this, he laughed. "I already have all the treasure in the world. What could this old man possibly give me?" But curiosity got the better of him. He ordered the guards to bring the sage to his throne room. The old sage bowed respectfully and said, "Your Majesty, I can see you are very wealthy, but I have something far more valuable than all your gold combined." The king raised an eyebrow. "And what is this treasure?" "Wisdom," the sage replied. "The wisdom to know what truly matters in life. But to receive it, you must pass 3 tests." The king was intrigued. He'd conquered kingdoms, defeated enemies, and solved countless problems. "I accept your challenge, old man. What are these tests?" The sage smiled. "The first test begins tomorrow. Be ready." And with that, he disappeared into thin air, leaving the king both amazed and excited. The next morning, the sage appeared in the king's private chamber and said, "For the first test, you must go into the city dressed as a common person. No crown, no royal clothes, no guards, just you walking among your people." King Vikram agreed. He'd never done this before, but how hard could it be? Dressed in simple clothes, the king walked through the marketplace. At first, it felt strange but exciting. But then something happened that shocked him. A shopkeeper pushed past him roughly. "Move aside, you're blocking my customers." A wealthy merchant's cart nearly ran him over. "Watch where you're going, peasant." Children playing in the street splashed mud on his clothes, and their parents didn't even apologize. For the first time in his life, King Vikram felt what it was like to be invisible, to be ignored, to be treated as if he didn't matter. By evening, he returned to the palace, exhausted and humbled. The sage was waiting. "What did you learn?" the sage asked. King Vikram sat down heavily. "I learned that without my crown, I am nobody. People respect my position, not me. They bow to my power, not my character." The sage nodded. "You have passed the first test. You've learned that titles and power are illusions. Strip them away, and what remains? That is your first lesson. You are not your position. You are not your wealth. You are what you are when no one is bowing." The king felt something shift inside him. "The second test," the sage continued, "will happen tomorrow. Be ready." The next day, the sage said, "For this test, you must spend the entire day with the poorest family in your kingdom. Live as they live. Eat what they eat. See how they survive." King Vikram agreed, though he couldn't imagine what this would teach him. The sage took him to a small hut at the edge of the kingdom. Inside lived a farmer, his wife, and their 3 children. They had almost nothing but torn clothes, a leaking roof, barely enough food for 1 meal a day. But something amazed the king. Despite their poverty, they were laughing. The children played with handmade toys, inventing games from nothing. The parents smiled at each other with genuine warmth. The whole family sat together for their simple meal, sharing stories and jokes. "How can you be so happy with so little?" the king asked the farmer. The farmer smiled. "We have everything that matters. He stopped himself, realizing this was the king in disguise. "We have each other. We have today. We have enough. What more do we need?" That evening, as King Vikram returned to his palace filled with gold and servants and luxury, he realized something that shook him to his core. He lived in a palace, but ate alone. He had thousands of subjects, but no real friends. He had mountains of gold, but no joy. The sage was waiting. "What did you learn?" The king's voice was quiet. "I learned that I am rich, but poor. That family had nothing, but possessed everything. I have everything, but possess nothing." "You have passed the second test," the sage said. "You've learned that wealth is not about what you own. It's about what brings you joy. You can be rich with nothing and poor with everything. There is one final test," the sage said. "This one will be the hardest." The next morning, the sage handed the king a simple hourglass. This hourglass represents 1 year of your life. In 1 year, you will face a choice. You can keep your kingdom, your wealth and power, but you will be completely alone. No family, no friends, no one to share your life with. Or you can give up your throne and wealth and live a simple life, but surrounded by people who truly love you. You have 1 year to decide. The king stared at the hourglass as the sand began to fall. At first, he thought the choice was obvious. Of course he'd keep his kingdom. Why would anyone give up power and wealth? But as the months passed, something changed. He started noticing things he'd never paid attention to before. The servants who cleaned his palace. He learned their names, their stories. The guards who protected him. He discovered they had families, dreams, struggles. The people in his kingdom. He walked among them more often, helping solve their problems, listening to their joys and sorrows. And slowly, the king began to build something he'd never had before. Real relationships. Not based on his crown or his gold, but based on who he was as a person. He laughed with the baker who made bread. He played with children in the village square. He sat with elderly citizens and listened to their wisdom. For the first time in his life, people knew him as Vikram, not as Your Majesty. When the year ended and the last grain of sand fell through the hourglass, the sage appeared. "The time has come. What is your choice? Kingdom and loneliness, or simplicity and love?" King Vikram looked around his empty throne room. Then he looked out the window at the village where he'd spent the past year building real connections. "I choose..." He paused, then smiled. "Neither." The sage raised his eyebrows. "Neither? I choose to remain king," Vikram said, "but to be a different kind of king. A king who remembers he is just a man. A king who values relationships over gold. A king who knows that power means nothing without purpose, and wealth means nothing without wisdom." The sage began to smile. "I've learned your 3 lessons," the king continued. "I am not my position. I am what I am when stripped of titles. Wealth is not what I own. It's what brings joy to my life. And the greatest treasure isn't gold or power. It's the people who love you for who you truly are." The sage bowed deeply. "You have passed the final test, Your Majesty. Not because you made the choice I expected, but because you understood the lesson." The test wasn't about choosing between 2 options. It was about understanding that life's greatest treasure is not what you accumulate, but who you become and who you love along the way. With that, the sage vanished, leaving behind only a small note that read, "A king who rules with wisdom is remembered. A king who rules with love is never forgotten." From that day forward, King Vikram ruled differently. He was still powerful, still wealthy, but he was no longer empty inside. He'd learned the greatest lesson of all. True wealth is measured not by what you have, but by what you would miss if it was gone. And power without purpose is just noise in the wind. This story teaches us 3 simple truths. First, you are not your job, money, or status. Titles are temporary. When everything is stripped away, only your character remains. Build that, not the mask. Second, real wealth isn't gold or power. It's peace, joy, and gratitude. You can be rich and unhappy, or simple and fulfilled. Wealth is a state of heart. Third, the greatest treasure is people who love you for who you truly are. In the end, you won't regret earning less. You'll regret loving less. So chase wisdom, not just wealth. Build relationships, not just success. Because when everything fades, only 3 things remain: who you were, who you loved, and who loved you back. So remember, chase wisdom, not wealth. Build relationships, not just success. Be someone people love, not just someone people respect out of obligation. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe. That's all for today. See you again in the next story.